guys, Matt at Middleton Motorsports here. Another episode of Behind the Tune. So we have a Mopar product up on the dyno today. I'm going to flip the camera around. We can walk up here and take a look at this thing. 2019 392 Dodge Challenger wide body. So this car came to us with a bunch of stuff done. You can see it's got some custom graphics on it. And under the hood here, I'll walk up on the deck. So first thing you can see here, ProCharger. So it's got a P1SC kit. This does have a camshaft in. It's got a Texas Stage 3 boost cam for the Mopar platform, for the Hemi. Long tube headers. Stock catback exhaust, so it still has just the stock H pipe or stock X pipe and the stock mufflers. Couple other little things under here, obviously coolant tank. It's got a catch can. So this car came to us with some drivability issues, some big drivability issues. Real touchy throttle on off, coming on and off the throttle. The throttle was basically going wide open, just over a quarter throttle. It would just snap wide open. Cruising through a parking lot, it would try to drive itself at 30 miles an hour. So a bunch of weird stuff going on. So basically I got, we took this on for the guy to get this thing kind of dialed in and eliminate some of those drivability issues it was having. So one of the things I had to do was reroute the catch can. They had, whoever had done this, had installed the catch can in line with the post throttle body intake tube here and for the PCV system. And that was causing a major vacuum leak and then subsequently a major boost leak. So having this hooked to a catch can with a filter on it, vented to atmosphere, was allowing air to be drawn in after the throttle body and boost to be blown out once you get the blower bypass shut and the blower making boost. So both undesirable situations there. The other thing that was a little bit tricky for me is the injectors are unknown. I'm not sure what the injectors are. He had been told they were a name brand injector. I pulled one of them out. They just look like some Bosch injectors with the serial number scratched off with no name brand on them at all. And I know the type of injectors he was sold on always put at least a sticker. The newer ones will always have the laser etching at the bottom of them for what they are. And these are not that. So I kind of had to go off of what was in the ECU already because I just don't know. And we're just kind of getting out of time on this car. So, but I was able to work around that. So I was able to work around typically like the way I normally tune this platform, this newer 2018 and up Dodge platform. I use what Dodge calls a neural network. And this car was tuned with the neural network shut off. Being it does have a camshaft that does lock out the variable cam timing, you can get them to run pretty good with the standard VE tables, and we'll take a look at the tune and the data log later in the video. It's for some of you guys who don't know what I'm talking about. Basically, it's just the strategy of what the ECU uses to measure airflow. So these don't have an airflow sensor like some of the Mustangs and the GM products do. This just has a MAP sensor, a manifold pressure sensor. So it does have, obviously, a different manifold pressure sensor on it that allows it to read boost. So obviously we can get into a positive manifold pressure. But yeah, so P1SC, it's pulleyed. I'm seeing about 6-7 pounds of boost on it right now. Kind of in between. If I really rev it out all the way up to 6,400, I'm seeing just touching 7. But yeah, everything else on it, the P1SC kit is basically kind of just the out of the box ProCharger setup. But being it does have a cam and it does have long tube headers, we have that going for us as far as bringing the engine to a little bit more efficient range on pump gas. So we'll take a look at the dyno graphs here for where I'm at so far. 603 is the peak number I'm seeing so far. Do got to be really careful on the 5.7 and 6.4 liter Mopar stuff, the Gen 3 Hemis. You got to be careful on how much you're leaning on them. The pistons are not that strong from the factory. I know people out there have made more power on better fueling, but this is a 91 octane car. Maybe it can see some 93 octane if you can find it around us here, but a lot of guys are want something tuned up on 91 so they can go to any of the gas stations and just put the premium in, and a lot of that's 91 around here. So This guy is local to us here in Madison, Wisconsin, and most stations we have in Madison are 91 octane. There's a few sprinkled out throughout the town, throughout the edges of town and stuff that have 93, 10% ethanol. But unfortunately, that's not everywhere. So we got to tune to what guys have available to them. So, and when we're talking something with pistons that are marginal for strength, we got to be careful on our tuning. So I'm not leaning on this really hard. And these Gen 3 Hemis don't take a lot of timing as it is. So on pump gas. So this is just where we're at. This is where, this is about where, like I said, six, maybe just touching 7 pounds of boost at the very top out 6,400 where I got the limiter set. Again, I don't feel comfortable revving them any higher than that. Again, I like to be conservative on this stuff, and I want to hand something back to somebody that's a time bomb. So I want stuff to just last for guys. So this is where I'm at so far. We're going to do one more pull. We're going to run this up one more time. And I just got back from lunch, so the car's a little cooled off. I'm going to warm it back up, get it back up to operating temp, and we'll do one more pull. And then we'll take a look at the final numbers here, and we'll take a look at the data log on the laptop. And we'll wrap this one up for this guy. All right, guys. So we dropped a little bit. Got into a little bit of spark knock on that one. So again, I'm kind of riding the edge of what we can put in this thing for timing, but you can see the graphs are kind of overlaying. You can see that green run I did pull a little timing right here. So I might have to make an adjustment here. And at the top, I think it just pulled a little bit more at the top because the blower was a little cooler and the boost was up a little bit. I saw a smidge over 7 pounds on that one. But anyway, you can see, that blue run, the red, or the other thing I'm running into up here is there's a little bit of fuel pressure drop off. So this car's kind of at its limits, and it is what it is. It's just part of this package, and we are tuning up against what we got here for hard parts. So, but yeah, otherwise, this thing is doing pretty well. I mean, making 600 wheel on one of these at the boost level we're at is pretty decent on 91 octane. So yeah, we're hovering right around that 600 to the tire. And that's I don't really like going much over that anyway, on one of these 6.4s, just because of bottom end integrity. So, I'm happy. I was worried that we were going to make it was going to make a little too much because it does have a little bit of a smaller pulley on it, but the cam and the long tubes are obviously soaking up some of that boost. So, I think this is looking really good so far. I might do one more just off camera just to clean that timing up a little bit, but it's just to clean up some of the timing, and some of the spark knock I was seeing, and we can take a look at the data log, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about with that. I'll hop in the car here, and I'll grab the laptop, and I can show you. So, and this, again, I'm showing you guys, that's why this is called Behind the Tune, because while I'm doing these polls, I'm doing live changes, and I'm working through this. I'm making these videos kind of in the middle of this tuning process here. So let's start with, you can see here that orange line right here. That's our boost line. That's our boost figure. So you can see there, it did make over 7 pounds. And again, because the other 2 runs I had up at the start of the video were kind of back to back working this morning, and everything was warmed up. I went to lunch, had some customers to talk to, had some other stuff to do. So the car sat for like 2 hours, cooled off. The run I just did, obviously I got the coolant temperature and the oil temperature back up, but the blower, the supercharger cools off a little bit. It's going to make a little bit more boost. So obviously that's at the very tippy top. I think I have this car shifting. I'm going to leave the shift point stock. Again, stock bottom end. And the other thing that we can take a look at then, we can take a look at the knock here. So right off the tip in there, it pulled a decent amount. I had been pulling timing down here, so it looks like I need to pull a couple more degrees down here. It's very sensitive to knock down there, and that's even rolling in the throttle where the throttle's not even open all the way. And you would saw in that dyno graph where I got a little bit of a drop on that green line, and that's right there where the 4600 was. I was getting some knock sensitivity also, so I might have to pull a little of timing out of there too. So, and then going towards the top end, we'll come down and look at the air-fuel ratio. So you can see, again, I'm looking at lambda. You can see I'm kind of hovering that low 0.8s. That's where this thing was happy. Actually, what I was getting when I was trying to put more fuel in it, I was actually getting more knock. What can happen is you put too much fuel in the cylinder and it starts to make the burn erratic, and you will actually pick up knock from that because the burn, the flame front in the combustion chamber isn't nice and smooth and quick. It gets erratic because there's so much fuel as the flame front propagates through. The burn isn't consistent, and so that'll come up as knock. And so this is basically where it liked it. The other thing, though, and again, with the power drop-off, and hopefully this glare, it's hard to see, but up here, it's starting to lean out, and it got kind of lean there. Again, this is above the shift point. The shift point is going to be right about here. So you can see it is getting lean, though. And I was trying to add fuel up here, and it was not responding. And with a fuel pressure check, it's dropping fuel pressure. So I'm out of fuel pump. So it just is what it is, with what this car's got on it and how it's set up. We're just kind of at the limits of all this. So yeah, it is what it is, but we're making the most of what we got. And I think we're doing pretty good with this setup so far. So, and the objective of cleaning this tune up so it drives properly and all that weird stuff that was going on with it, that he had with the throttle response and the kind of driving away by itself with your foot off the throttle. It was doing all sorts of quirky stuff. So I got all that stuff cleaned up for him. Obviously I did a bunch of street driving and street tuning before I put this one on the dyno. And a lot of the cars I'll do that preemptively, is just get it on the street first. And then clean up all that drivability stuff, then get it on the dyno, and the wide open throttle stuff is the final wrap up the whole tune here. So yeah, so this is looking good. I mean, other than this little fuel pressure drop off up here and this coming up a little bit lean, this is easy for me to, obviously easy to clean up. This little bit of knock it's picking up, I can pull some timing through this mid-range area in here. And those are the two areas I've been battling with knock tuning this car. Again, 91 octane, you just run into knock limits, and you got to be conservative on the timing in some instances. So yeah, I'll make a couple adjustments here, and that'll wrap it up for this one. I'm going to probably do one more drive in it and make sure that the throttle. The other trick with these Mopars, when you're adding boost onto a 5.7 or a 6.4, is, and I was talking about the neural network or not, so I'm going to go into the tune here, and Dodge uses what's called a neural network, and GM now uses it too on their Global B stuff, and it's basically a system of it's a neural network, so there's layers, and it uses like different nodes to predict airflow and fueling, and if you really want to learn about neural networks, you can get on YouTube and look up neural networks. I'm not going to try to explain what a neural network is here, but basically it uses different layers. Well, you can see here, yeah, first layer, second layer, output layer. So this is like a 3-layer system, and there's a whole bunch of inputs that go in and make its way through all these layers, and then the outputs, fueling, spark, basically the outputs of the engine. So, but with a Dodge, you can shut it on and off. And what a lot of tuners will do is they'll shut them off. Just any kind of tuning on these Dodges, guys will just shut it off. I like using it in most instances. The reason I kept it turned off on this one, because again, this car was previously tuned, is because I don't know what the injectors are, and I have to have good injector data to get that neural network to work properly. HP Tuners has a really nice utility to edit the neural network. You run it through their server back at HP Tuners. It's time consuming, and it takes a long time. You got to run the model a bunch of times through their what they call a trainer on their server. But in the end, the cars drive really nice. And when you're adding boost onto a non-boosted Mopar, I think the neural network works better. But again, you have to have good injector data. And without good injector data, yeah, I didn't want to try to go down that rabbit hole. So what you can do is you disable the neural network, which is how this car came in. And I just left it that way. And you can then it reverts to these volumetric efficiency tables, like any other volumetric efficiency table, like a GM would use on some of the earlier stuff if you're doing speed density tuning. And then it's just a VE table. So you got a pressure ratio, and you got RPM, and then you got your volumetric efficiency numbers that determine how much fuel is going to be injected, and will also determine the air mass that the ECU is calculating, and subsequently also the torque output for like the transmission shifting and stuff like that. So you can see that, this darker orange stuff here is where it's really starting to pour the fuel on. And if you can kind of look down here, you can see that I have where it continues to increase. Typically VE will drop off towards the top. And I had this, oh, sorry guys, yeah, my laptop's ready to die. But anyway, I had this up at 6,400 where it was leaning out. I had that probably 10% richer than what it is now. And the air fuel ratio was exactly the same. So, and that's when, again, I checked the fuel pressure on it during a pull, and it's dropping. So, luckily this thing is shifting like 61 or 6200 right before it starts to really trend lean like that. So I think we're going to be fine. But obviously I'll let the customer know, the owner of the car, know what's going on. And he may want to make some changes to this car. I know him and his son have built this car together, and he might want to make it 100% perfect. So that'll be a discussion I'll have with him and kind of give him the rundown on what's going on with it that he wasn't getting from the other shop. So, yeah, there's a lot more to it. Obviously in this Dodge tuning, it's different from a Ford, and it's different from a GM. I would say it's probably closer to a GM than a Ford, but there's a lot of differences, and Dodge does it their own way too. So the big three all have their own strategies on how this late model tuning works. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it on the data log. Like again, there's a couple, like this isn't a perfect data log, and there's some stuff I'm going to change here. And then I'm going to have a discussion with the customer about this fuel pressure thing. And we'll go from there. But for what we got in the car, we are dialed. So that'll wrap it up for this one on the dyno. Like I said, I'm going to go test drive this one more time, and we'll wrap this one up. So appreciate you guys watching our channel, and keep checking back for more stuff. Obviously, we always got a lot more stuff coming down the pipeline, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Talk to you later.